The year was 2147. Earth was calm. Cities glowed with warm lights at night. And the oceans reflected the stars above. For decades, humanity had worked to rebuild after its own wars. People lived in peace, unaware that far away in the dark cold of space, something ancient and merciless had already decided their fate. On a quiet night in the northern hemisphere, the first strange light appeared. It was faint at first, like a falling star. Then another followed, then another. A farmer in Kansas stopped his tractor and looked up, thinking they were meteors. He even smiled for a moment. But his smile faded when the lights did not fall. They grew brighter, bigger, and they moved together in perfect lines. In an observatory. In Chile, an old astronomer named Dr. Vega adjusted his telescope. What he saw made his hands shake. Hundreds of massive shapes were moving at impossible speeds toward the solar system. He called his assistant and whispered, "They're not meteors. They're ships." The words felt heavy, like stones in his mouth, within hours. Telescopes around the world confirmed it. The images were sent to military command centers. The ships were huge, black against the stars. And there were so many. They blotted out parts of the sky. Social media exploded with speculation. People argued if it was just a drill, a space phenomenon, or something far worse. In the underground command bunker of the United Earth government, red lights flashed on every screen. Generals shouted orders. A voice over the intercom repeated, "Global Security Alert, Level Omega." This was the first time in history that such a level had been declared. Rumors started to spread among soldiers and scientists. Whispers of the name Varnock Armada passed from mouth to mouth. The Varnock were not a myth to those who studied deep space history. They were real, and they were feared, according to alien data collected decades ago. The Varnock had destroyed 5 entire civilizations without warning. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They arrived, erased, and moved on. At 2:17 a.m. Earth Standard Time, the President of the United Earth Government walked into the war room. Her face was pale. She looked at the generals and scientists. "Are we certain?" She asked. Admiral Ross, the highest-ranking officer of Earth's defense fleet, nodded. His voice was steady but low. "Yes, Madam President, it's them." Outside, the world continued to turn. But the mood changed. News anchors struggled. To keep their voices calm, parents held their children a little closer. People stayed up late, watching the night sky for signs. In the largest cities, crowds gathered in open squares, pointing to strange shadows moving against the stars by dawn. The alien fleet had entered the edge of the solar system. They passed through the orbit of Pluto in less than an hour. Astronomers tried to calculate their arrival time to Earth. The answer came back. Less than 2 days. Military satellites were the first to feel the attack without warning. The alien ships began firing beams of light. The satellites melted and fell silent one by one. The feeds to the surface went dark. It was like someone was cutting away Earth's eyes and ears. Admiral Ross stood at the main tactical display. Watching icons of satellites blink out, he turned to his staff. "We hold all public broadcasts at readiness level 2. We tell the people to stay calm, but we prepare for contact." The room was silent, except for the sound of computers processing endless streams of data. Meanwhile, the alien ships kept coming, moving in perfect formation. They were not like human ships. They were alive with strange moving armor that shifted. Colors, almost like skin, massive spines extended from their hulls, glowing faintly with some unknown energy every few minutes. Smaller craft would dart away from the main fleet and then return, like hunters checking their prey before the kill on the streets of New York. A boy named Leo held up his father's old binoculars and stared at the sky. He thought he could see tiny dots moving in the darkness. His grandmother told him to come inside, but he didn't. Dad said we'd meet aliens one day. he whispered to himself. I don't think he meant this. By nightfall, Earth's defense forces were mobilized. The great space stations orbiting the planet turned their weapons outward. But even the most advanced human technology seemed small compared to what was approaching in the war room. A live feed from a deep space drone played on the big screen. The alien ships were now close enough that their size could be measured. Each one was larger than the city of Los Angeles. And there were hundreds, maybe thousands. The president looked at Admiral Ross. If they reach firing range, can we survive? She asked. Ross didn't answer right away. He looked at the screen, then at the floor, and finally said, not without something they don't know we have. The words hung in the air. No one asked what he meant. Not yet. The alien fleet was less than 24 hours away, and the shadows in the sky had grown so large that in some places they could be seen even during the day. People stood outside, shielding their eyes from the sun, pointing at black shapes moving slowly across the blue. Some prayed, some cried, and some swore humanity would fight. But no one, not even the generals, knew exactly what Earth's first move would be. All they knew was that the Varnock Armada was coming, and the sky itself seemed to darken with their arrival. The alien ships did not slow. Their dark hulls reflected no sunlight, only swallowing it, making them look like holes in space itself. The whole fleet moved with the cold precision of a predator closing in on prey. At 4:03 a.m. Earth Standard Time, the world received its first direct sign from the invaders. A deep vibration rolled through the radio spectrum, shaking every communication system on Earth. Radios, televisions, and even personal devices stopped working for a moment. Then a voice came through. Not human, not machine, but something in between. It was calm, cold, and carried a weight that made every listener's skin crawl. Surrender your planet, it said, or be erased. There were no greetings, no demands for resources, no mention of peace or negotiation, just that single, merciless choice. The message repeated 3 times in hundreds of human languages before vanishing. The silence that followed felt heavier than the message itself in the United Earth Government's main war room. Leaders from every continent sat in a circle of screens. Some argued to respond, others wanted to stall, and a few whispered about surrender. The president slammed her hand on the table. We are not giving up our home, she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were full of fire. Admiral Ross leaned forward. Madam President, we cannot tell them our plans, but we must buy time. Every hour they approach gives us less room to act. The room agreed, but no one could see a clear way forward. Meanwhile, in the public eye, panic was rising in cities across the world. People began buying supplies, hoarding food, filling underground shelters. On the news, experts debated the aliens' intentions. Some thought the invaders wanted Earth's oceans. Some said it was the planet's position in the galaxy. Others said it didn't matter. The Varnock took worlds simply because they could. Across the Pacific, in a hidden base under the waves near the Mariana Trench, a secure communication channel came alive. The voice on the other end belonged to Director Hall of the Black Shield Project. Admiral, we've been preparing for this day for 20 years, she said. Her tone carried no panic, only cold readiness. If they cross Mars orbit, we'll be in position to strike. Ross knew about Black Shield, but not the full extent. He had seen glimpses of it in old classified files. A defensive system far beyond anything publicly known, a secret kept even from most of the military. Now, it was Earth's only hope as the alien fleet moved closer. They began scanning Earth's defenses. Strange green beams swept across the moon. Mapping every crater, they disabled more satellites, cutting Earth's vision of deep space. The invaders were not hiding. They wanted humanity to watch, to understand that nothing could stop them. In the quiet town of Arcadia, a teenage girl Name Marin sat on the roof of her house, staring at the night sky. Her grandfather, a retired pilot, joined her. He handed her a small pair of binoculars. "See that line of moving stars?" he asked. She nodded. "That's not stars," he whispered. "That's the enemy, back in the war room." A new transmission arrived from the Varnak. This time, it was visual. A massive alien face filled the screen. Its skin was dark silver, with shifting patterns like liquid metal. Its eyes were black and endless. When it spoke, the voice was the same as before. But now it carried a tone of mockery. "You are weak," it said. "You cannot resist. Your defenses are dust. Your weapons are nothing. You have 20 Earth hours to decide." The feed cut off, leaving only the sound of static. The president turned to Ross. "We have less than a day. What's our first move?" Ross glanced at a secure console and then spoke in a low voice. "We activate Black Shield. Full readiness. All assets to high orbit. No public announcement. We let the Varnak think we're scared." In the cold vacuum of space, hidden stations began to stir. Massive panels unfolded like the wings of sleeping giants. Invisible energy fields began to charge. The Black Shield was not just a weapon. It was a trap. But the aliens had their own plans. Their fleet shifted formation, now spread wide like a net. They launched hundreds of smaller ships ahead, scouts that moved at blinding speeds. These would be the first to reach Earth's defenses, testing the response before the main fleet arrived. Civilian broadcasts tried to keep people calm, but images leaked from inside the military. Photos of the alien ships, each one larger than a human city, filled every screen. People in crowded subway stations stared at the glowing images in silence. In small villages, elders told children to stay indoors. Some even covered windows with old blankets, as if hiding from an ancient storm. The countdown ticked down to 19 hours, and the alien fleet showed no sign of slowing, the Varnak thought. They were closing in on an easy kill. But Admiral Ross and Director Hall knew one thing the invaders did not. The closer they came, the closer they moved into the jaws of a weapon that had never been tested in real war, and Earth was ready to bite. Far beneath the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, a place where no sunlight touched and the wind screamed endlessly across the ice, lay the entrance to the most secret project in human history. It had no name in public records, no mention in official maps, and even its existence was denied by most governments. But to the few who knew, it was called Black Shield. Here, under kilometers of ice, a chamber larger than any human-made structure stretched into the darkness. Rows of colossal machines lined its walls, glowing faintly with blue light. Thick armored doors sealed away sections where the real heart of the project lay. Eclipse, Admiral Ross stood on the central platform as the great steel shutters opened before him, revealing the core of Earth's hidden defense. It looked almost alive. A vast network of interlocked rings floated in suspension, humming softly. Each ring was covered in thousands of small, precise emitters connected to giant conduits that pulsed with energy. Director Hall walked beside him, her heavy coat whipping. "In the freezing air, 20 years ago, we knew this day would come," she said. "The Varnak destroy without warning. We saw what they did to the Threx worlds. We promised ourselves if they came for Earth, we wouldn't just fight, we'd end them." Ross nodded slowly. He had seen many weapons in his career, but nothing like this. "How many know?" he asked. "Only the people in this room and the crews aboard the satellites," Hall replied. "To the rest of the world, Black Shield is a rumor, a ghost story told among soldiers up above. In the dark void between Mars and Earth, the first parts of Black Shield were already in place, invisible to normal scans, hidden among asteroid fields and disguised as harmless space debris. They waited. Each one was a segment of the Eclipse array, a weapon designed not to fire one giant blast, but to create a wall of energy across space itself. a kill zone no ship could survive crossing, in the war room, back on the surface. Scientists and engineers coordinated every move. Dozens of encrypted channels kept the flow of commands hidden from alien scanners. On the big screen, the alien fleet crept closer, now only 18 hours away. Meanwhile, across Earth, life moved. In strange silence, people still went to work, but their eyes constantly searched the skies. News channels tried to distract with stories of human courage, but fear hung heavy in the air in small apartments. Families gathered together as if each moment might be their last in orbit. The International Defense Station turned toward the alien fleet. The crew knew they were not the main weapon. But their job was vital to bait the Varnock into crossing the zone where eclipse would strike. The alien scouts were already near Jupiter, darting between its moons like silver predators. They destroyed automated mining stations without hesitation. Every move they made was recorded and sent to Black Shield's tactical AI. The AI had one purpose: calculate the perfect moment to fire. Down in Antarctica, Hall activated the primary control interface. "We have one chance," she reminded. "Ross, the Eclipse array takes 10 hours to fully recharge. If we miss, Earth will have nothing left but orbital guns and hope." Ross placed his hand on the console. "Then we won't miss. Far away." On the alien flagship, the Varnock commander observed the human defenses with contempt. Primitive. He growled. His second-in-command hissed agreement. "Their weapons are weak. Their ships are few. They have no answer for our power." They did not know that the answer was already waiting. Silent and invisible as the alien fleet passed Saturn's orbit. Human long-range scanners picked up new energy readings. The Varnock were powering their main weapons. They intended to destroy any orbital defenses long before reaching Earth. Ross watched the readings come in. "They think they are hunting us," he said quietly. "They don't know they've already stepped into the trap." Black Shield's hidden satellites began aligning. Small thruster bursts moved them into perfect position. Some were close to asteroids. Others floated in empty space. Each one pointed toward a central coordinate in the void between Mars and Earth. On the surface, Director Hall opened a private comms link to the President. "Madam President," she said, "the weapon is online. We will be ready to fire the moment they cross the boundary." The President's reply was calm, but her voice carried the weight of the entire planet. "Make it count." The alien scouts finally reached the edge of the kill zone. They slowed for a moment, scanning the emptiness. Then they resumed their advance, reporting nothing unusual to their flagship. The Varnock commander laughed, pathetic but deep. In the ice, the hum of the Eclipse array grew louder. The rings began to spin. Slowly at first, then faster. Blue light crawled across their surfaces like lightning trapped in glass. Engineers shouted status reports. The AI's voice filled the chamber. "Alignment complete. Charge at 65%. Target lock established." Ross stood perfectly still, eyes fixed on the tactical display. The alien fleet was now 15 hours away from Earth and less than 2 hours from the firing line. He thought of the billions of people sleeping, working or praying under the blue skies of home. "Hold the line," he whispered. Not to anyone in particular, but to himself, and above him, in the cold void, humanity's greatest secret waited in silence, ready to light the darkness with the fire of 1,000 suns. The alien fleet was still hours away from Earth, but humanity's first loss came long before they entered the kill zone. It happened at Mars, the red world that had been humanity's proudest achievement beyond Earth for decades. It had grown from a lonely research outpost into a thriving colony. Cities under domes stretched across the dusty plains. Mines dug deep into the crust. Solar fields glittered under the thin sky. Over 2 million people called it home at 7:12 Earth Standard Time. The first alien scout ships reached Mars orbit. The colony's defense platforms rotated to face them. Their cannons charged, guided by operators in underground bunkers. On every channel, alarms rang. The colony governor spoke over the network. His voice steady. "Mars will hold. We will not run." The alien scouts didn't reply. They didn't send demands or warnings. Instead, beams of searing green light lanced from their ships. One by one, the defense platforms exploded. The beams cut through steel and stone as if it were paper. The main spaceport's docking towers fell in burning pieces from the surface. Colonists could see fire raining down. Entire districts were consumed in moments. Emergency transports tried to flee, but the alien scouts hunted them like prey. The Martian skies glowed with an unnatural light in the war room on Earth. Admiral Ross watched the destruction in silence, his jaw clenched. Every officer in the room knew Mars had no chance. Not against ships built to destroy entire civilizations, but watching it happen was something else entirely. Losses? Ross asked quietly. "Total," came the reply from the tactical officer. "No survivors reported." Director Hall stood beside him. "They're showing us what happens to those who resist." She said no, Ross replied, his voice cold. "They're showing us what they think will happen to us." The alien fleet didn't linger. The scouts regrouped and sent a final blast into the largest Martian city. The dome shattered, releasing a plume of dust and fire that rose into the thin atmosphere. Then the scouts accelerated toward Earth, their path carrying them straight into the eclipse kill zone. The destruction of Mars sent shockwaves through humanity on Earth. Screens filled with images of burning cities and collapsing domes. People stared in disbelief. Some cried openly. Others clenched their fists. For many, the fear turned into anger in the Antarctic control chamber. The mood was different. Engineers worked without pause. The AI announced, "Eclipse charge at 81%. Kill zone alignment stable." The weapon was nearly ready. Ross opened a secure channel to the president. "We draw the line here," he said. "If they cross, we fire." "Understood," the president replied. Her face was pale, but her voice was firm. "The people are counting on you." Above the moon's far side, a formation of human warships held position. They weren't there to win a battle. Their role was to play the part of a desperate defense. To lure the Varnak into range, the captains of these ships knew they might not survive, yet not one of them hesitated when the orders came. The alien commander aboard the flagship watched his prey with satisfaction. The destruction of Mars had been a message. Now he would finish the hunt. His second-in-command hissed, "The humans scatter before us." "They will not scatter for long," the commander replied. "Their courage will break when we cut the heart from their system." But the commander did not know that every step forward was drawing him deeper into Earth's trap. From the lunar defense grid, long-range sensors tracked the alien fleet's movement. They measured the spread of the ships, their attack formations, their speed. Every detail fed into the Eclipse targeting system. "Kill zone breach in 35 minutes, the AI's voice announced. The hum of the Eclipse array deepened. The massive rings beneath Antarctica spun faster, blue light crawling over there. Surfaces like veins of fire. Back in the war room, Ross leaned over the display, watching as the alien icons moved closer to the red line marking the firing boundary. "Hold your fire until I give the word," he said. His voice carried the weight of every life on Earth. On the alien flagship, the commander ordered a forward thrust. The scouts formed a spearhead, heading straight for the human warships near the moon. He didn't see the invisible satellites drifting ahead of him, their silent sensors locked on. His fleet, the people of Earth, watched from rooftops, beaches, and windows. Many didn't know about the Eclipse weapon. All they saw were black shapes in the sky, growing larger every hour. Some prayed, some shouted defiance into the wind. Then, without warning, a small alien craft broke formation, diving toward Earth's atmosphere. It streaked across the sky like a burning star before vanishing into the clouds. No one knew where it had gone. Roz's aides scrambled to track it, but the focus remained on the main fleet. In the Antarctic chamber, Director Hall raised her hand. "All stations report ready," she said. Ross nodded. "Then we wait for them to take the final step." The alien fleet closed in, confident, arrogant, unaware that the moment they crossed an invisible line in space, the sky itself would turn. Against them, Mars had always been more than a red dot in the night sky. It was humanity's promise to the future, a world where people could start again. Free from the mistakes of Earth, for decades, the colony had grown strong. Domed cities sparkled against the barren dust, trains glided through tunnels under the surface, and children played under artificial skies. But that morning, none of it mattered. The alien scouts arrived without warning. They slid into Mars orbit like shadows. No lights, no signals, no hesitation, the colony's orbital defense ring. Activated instantly, massive cannons rotated toward the intruders, power cells humming. Every soldier in the bunkers below gripped their controls, waiting for the order to fire. Governor Harlow, leader of Mars Colony 1, stood in the command chamber beneath Olympus Mons. He could feel the vibrations in the ground as defense systems roared to life. He sent a message to the people: "Stay inside, trust the defenses. Mars will not fall." His voice was steady, but his hands trembled behind the podium from the surface. Colonists could see the alien ships for the first time, enormous, dark, and shaped like jagged blades. They reflected no sunlight. Some children thought they looked like pieces of the night sky that had broken off and drifted too close. The first shot came from Mars. A railgun battery launched a slug at near-light speed. It struck one of the alien scouts squarely and bounced away like a pebble off a mountain. The alien reply was immediate. Beams of green fire lanced downward. Each hit split into dozens of smaller arcs, cutting through steel, glass, and stone. Orbital platforms shattered in seconds. Pieces of them fell in burning trails toward the colony. Domes, the sky over Mars turned into a storm of fire and metal. In the war room on Earth, Admiral Ross stood over the tactical map, watching the icons of Mars defenses vanish one after another. He didn't blink, didn't move, but his jaw clenched so tightly the muscles ached. "How long can they hold?" he asked. "Minutes," the reply came. "Maybe less," Director Hall, standing beside him, whispered. "They're making an example of Mars." Ross didn't look away from the display. "Then they'll think we're next." Governor Harlow gave one final order: evacuate what you can, but there was no escape. The alien scouts hunted every fleeing ship, cutting them apart with surgical precision. One transport full of families managed to break atmosphere, only to be split in two by a single strike. The pieces fell back into the dust like sparks dying in the wind. The largest dome, New Horizon City, became the final target. The aliens circled above it like vultures, then unleashed a blast that shattered the dome's thick glass. The artificial atmosphere inside vented into the thin Martian air, carrying with it the screams of thousands. In moments, the city was silent, its buildings empty shells under the pale sun. On Earth, the images reached every screen. News anchors struggled to speak. Many just turned away. For some, it was grief. For others, rage crowds gathered outside government buildings, chanting, demanding action. Soldiers volunteered in numbers so high that recruitment systems collapsed under the load. But in the frozen depths of Antarctica, there was no shouting, only quiet. The Black Shield control team focused on their work. The AI's voice was calm. Eclipse charge at 86%, alignment stable. Ross opened a secure channel to the president. "We've drawn the line. If they cross it, we will fire." "Then make sure they do," she answered, high above the moon's far side. A small fleet of human warships adjusted their positions. They knew they could not defeat the alien armada in open battle. Their mission was to act as bait, to look like Earth's last desperate shield. The captains had been told there might be no way back. And still, every single one had stayed. On the alien flagship, Commander Vrish watched the destruction of Mars. With satisfaction, "One world erased," he hissed. "One more to go." His second-in-command nodded. "Their fear will break them before we arrive. They will welcome death when we end them." Vrish replied. The alien scouts regrouped and accelerated toward Earth. The wreckage of Mars drifted in their wake like a warning. The heat from their engines painted streaks across the black void. Each passing minute brought them closer to the invisible line where the eclipse array waited. From lunar orbit, human long-range scanners fed constant data into the weapons targeting system. Every movement, every change in formation was measured. The aliens still saw nothing. The kill zone remained a silent ghost in the dark. "Kill zone breach in 31 minutes, the AI announced. The deep hum of the eclipse array in Antarctica became louder. The great spinning rings glowed brighter. Energy raced through the conduits. Ross looked at the tactical display. His voice was a low growl. "When they cross, we end them on Earth's streets." People looked up at the daylight sky. Some could already see faint moving shapes, black against blue. Few knew those were just forward scouts. The main fleet still hours away, but even those shadows made hearts race and stomachs twist. The aliens believed they had broken humanity's spirit by burning Mars. They didn't realize they had only lit the fire inside it. And at the heart of that fire, hidden beneath ice and stone, the weapon humanity had never dared to use was almost ready to roar. The black emptiness between Mars and Earth had never felt so tense. The alien armada moved like a wall of steel and shadow. Each ship was larger than a human city. Their jagged hulls glowing faintly with alien energy, they came with the confidence of predators who had never failed to kill on Earth. In the frozen chamber beneath Antarctica, the eclipse array hummed with power. The great spinning rings turned faster, their surfaces crawling with lines of blue light. The air inside the chamber trembled, dust dancing in invisible waves. Director Hall stood at the main console, her eyes locked on the status screens. "Charge at 93%, the AI reported. Kill zone breach in 7 minutes. Admiral Ross was in the war room above, watching the tactical display. Red markers showed the alien ships inching toward the invisible line in space. "Hold your fire," he said, into the secure channel. "We let them think they're safe, high above the moon." The human decoy fleet floated in formation. They looked small compared to the oncoming storm. Each captain knew they were bait. Their role was to stay just close enough to tempt the Varnock deeper on the alien flagship. Commander Vrish smiled. "They send children's ships to meet us." He sneered. "We will crush them in a single strike." He gave the order for his front line to advance at full speed. In the Antarctic chamber, Hall's team worked in silence. Every second was measured. The eclipse array was not a weapon that could be fired casually. It required perfect timing, perfect alignment, and a target foolish enough to walk directly into its teeth. 6 minutes. The alien ships began to pass through the first cluster of invisible satellites. None of their scanners detected the tiny devices hidden among drifting rocks. The satellites remained silent, their transmitters locked. Waiting for the order, 5 minutes. The human decoy fleet began to retreat slowly, drawing the aliens forward. Their engines glowed faintly against the blackness. On Earth, millions watched the live feed with held breath. Some prayed for the ships to escape. Others prayed they would hold just a little longer. For minutes, a sudden alarm rang in the Antarctic control room. One of the alien scouts had broken formation, heading straight for the moon. Hall's eyes narrowed. "Ignore it," she said. "We're after the main fleet. 3 minutes." The alien flagship crossed the invisible boundary of the kill zone. The AI's voice was calm but sharp. Primary targets in range. The great rings of the eclipse array spun so fast they blurred. Energy built until the chamber felt like it might rip itself apart. 2 minutes, Admiral Ross's voice came through the secure line. "All stations stand by. When I give the word, you fire." His hands tightened on the edge of the display. Every nerve in his body told him this was the moment. 1 minute, the alien fleet spread into attack formation. Energy flared along their hulls. They were preparing to fire on the decoy fleet. Ross gave the order, "Black Shield, unleash in the Antarctic depths." Hall slammed her hand on the activation panel. The rings of the eclipse array locked into perfect alignment. In orbit, the hidden satellites came alive. Each one sent a beam of invisible energy to a single point in space. The beams converged, merging into a wall of pure light. The void erupted. A blinding sheet of blue-white fire roared across space, stretching for hundreds of kilometers. It slammed into the alien ships with the force of a collapsing star. Their shields flared once and failed. Metal turned to vapor. Hulls broke apart like glass under a hammer. On the alien flagship, chaos erupted. Resh screamed orders, but the bridge was already tearing apart. The shockwave ripped through the ship, throwing crew into walls. Flames and sparks filled the air before the entire vessel split in two. On Earth, people watching the feed saw the black wall of the alien fleet dissolve into burning fragments. Gas clouds expanded in all directions, lit by the fading glow of the eclipse discharge. The night sky above the planet shimmered as the energy wave passed through the upper atmosphere. In the war room, Ross didn't smile. He only said, "Reload the array, finish what's left." Smaller alien ships tried to scatter, breaking formation. In panic, but the second phase of Black Shield was already in motion. Human strike craft hidden in asteroid belts powered forward. Launching kinetic slugs and missile swarms, the fleeing ships were cut down one by one, explosions marking their deaths in silent bursts of light in less than 15 minutes. The greatest fleet the Varnock had ever sent was nothing but wreckage. Pieces of their ships drifted slowly toward the sun. Others spun into deep space, cold and lifeless. The people of Earth erupted in celebration. Cheers rang from crowded streets. In cities and villages alike, strangers embraced. Some cried, some laughed. Many simply stared at the sky as if they couldn't believe what they'd just seen. But in the Antarctic chamber, the mood remained sharp and focused. Eclipse charge at 30%, the AI announced. Time to full power. 9 hours. Hall turned to Ross's image on the screen. "If there's another wave, we won't be ready in time." Ross nodded. "Then we pray they don't have one." Far away, beyond the edge of human scanners, a faint signal pulsed in the dark. It was not from the destroyed fleet. It was a message, racing towards somewhere even deeper in the galaxy. A warning or a call for revenge. The stars were quiet. Again, no more black shapes drifting in formation. No more green beams tearing through space. Only wreckage remained. Thousands of twisted fragments glinting faintly as they floated in the void between Mars and Earth. In the Antarctic control chamber, the deep hum of the eclipse array had faded. The great spinning rings were still now, their glow dimmed to a pale blue. Director Hall stood at the console, her hands resting on the cold metal for the first time in 20 hours. She exhaled, slowly confirmed. The AI's voice said, "All primary targets destroyed. No active enemy ships detected in the kill zone." Admiral Ross received the report in the war room. He didn't cheer, he didn't relax, he only nodded. "Begin recovery operations. I want every piece of alien tech we can get our hands on." The war was over, at least for now. But no one in the room believed it was the end. Across Earth, celebrations erupted. In crowded streets, people hugged strangers, waving flags and shouting into the night. Families who had huddled in basements hours ago now stood under open skies. Gazing upward with new hope in small towns, bells rang in great cities. Skyscrapers glowed with messages. We stood, we won. But there were also places where the mood was heavier. Mars' colony was gone. 2 million souls had been lost in less than an hour. In memorial squares on Earth, candles appeared. People whispered. Names into the wind, mothers held photographs. Fathers stood in silence. Children clung to the hands of strangers who had fought in the defense. In one coastal town, a little boy named Leo, who had once stared at the alien fleet through his father's binoculars, now looked at the same sky. This time, there were no dark shapes moving, only stars. We beat them, he whispered to his grandmother. She nodded, but her eyes were wet on the moon. The surviving ships of the human decoy fleet returned to port. Their hulls scorched, their crews exhausted. Many of them had expected to die. And now they walked down the landing ramps to applause from the ground crews. Some laughed, some simply collapsed into chairs. Unable to process that they were still alive, in orbit above Earth, drones and shuttles began collecting the wreckage. Of the alien ships, the pieces were unlike anything humanity had seen before. Black metal that resisted cutting tools, devices still humming with alien energy, and strange organic matter fused into the machines. Scientists worked in isolation chambers, studying every fragment with awe and caution. Back in the Antarctic chamber, Ross and Hall spoke privately. "They'll know," Hall said. "The Varnak will know we destroyed their fleet. Word will spread through the galaxy." Ross looked at her. "Good. Let them know. Let them understand. Earth is not an easy kill." In the alien council halls far across the stars, messages were already arriving. Grainy images of the burning fleet, intercepted signals of their final moments. Civilizations that had once dismissed humans as fragile now began to whisper their name with respect and fear. On Earth, the president addressed the planet from the United Earth Government headquarters. Her image was broadcast to every screen. "Today, we faced the greatest danger in our history," she said. "We did not bow. We did not run. We stood together, and we will stand again if we must." The people cheered, but deep inside, many knew this was not the last time. The Varnak were not the only predators in the dark, in the cold quiet of space. A lone Varnak escape pod drifted beyond the reach of human scanners. Inside, a wounded officer recorded a message in his harsh native tongue. "They have a weapon," he growled. "It must be destroyed before it grows stronger." The pod's engines flared weakly, pushing it toward the edge of the system. Carrying its warning into the void, Ross received a final status report. Eclipse charge at 41%. Next firing window in 6 hours. He nodded. "Keep it running, just in case." The silence after the battle felt strange. It was not the peace of a world untouched by war. It was the stillness of a warrior lowering his weapon, but not letting go. Humanity had survived the first strike, but the shadow of the next one already lingered at the edge of the stars. For now, Earth could breathe. For now, the sky was clear. But in every command center, every watch station, and every heart that had seen the Varnak fleet blot out the heavens, the same thought echoed: they will come again. The wreckage of the Varnak armada still drifted in the cold void. Silent reminders of the day Earth refused to kneel. For weeks, salvage drones worked tirelessly, pulling in shattered hull plates, twisted weapons, and fragments of alien technology. The airless graveyard between Mars and Earth became a place of both victory and mourning, but in the halls of the United Earth Government there was no time to rest. Admiral Ross stood before the Global Defense Council, maps and star charts glowing in the air around him. "We will not wait for them to return," he said, his voice steady. We send a message now, not just to the Varnak, but to the entire galaxy. The council members exchanged wary glances. What kind of message? One asked. Ross looked directly into the camera, speaking as if the whole galaxy could hear him. That Earth is not prey. In Antarctica, deep under the ice. The eclipse array was not powered down. Instead, its rings were upgraded, recalibrated. For long-range projection, the engineers called it the voice. A signal that would ride on beams of energy, crossing the void faster than any human ship could travel. Director Hall supervised every adjustment, knowing the risk. If we send this message, we will reveal our position to every listening ear in the stars. Her deputy warned. Hall didn't hesitate. Good, let them all hear it. On the day of the broadcast, every human settlement on Earth, the Moon, and the few surviving outposts was told to stand by. Civilians gathered in squares. Soldiers paused their drills. Workers stepped away from factories. In homes, families leaned close to screens. Their children watching with wide eyes, the eclipse array began to spin. Its glow not the sharp blue of battle, but a golden light that reached deep into the ice walls around it. The hum built slowly, filling the chamber until it felt like the very air was alive. Ross stood on the transmission platform. Dressed not in full military uniform, but in a plain jacket bearing the Earth emblem. When the signal activated, it was not only sent into deep space, it was broadcast across every human channel, so the people would hear what the stars would hear. This is Admiral Ross of the United Earth Defense Fleet. His voice began. Not long ago, a great armada came to erase us. They believed we were weak. They believed we would bow. They were wrong. He paused, letting the silence speak as loudly as his words. We are a young world, but we are not defenseless. We do not seek conquest. But if you come for us, you will not return. The signal carried more than just words. It carried images, the burning remains of the Varnak fleet, the bright flash of the eclipse array firing, the ruins of Mars, and the faces of survivors who had refused to break, to those who would see it in alien council chambers. The message was clear. Earth could fight, and Earth could win, in far-off systems. Alien traders would one day stop mid-step as the image of the human admiral appeared on their holoscreens. In dark war rooms, generals of distant species would slow their plans and reconsider. And in the deepest corners of the galaxy, whispers would begin, not of humans as fragile creatures, but as a force that burned like a star when threatened. Back on Earth, the people cheered as the broadcast ended. In the streets, flags waved and music rose in the air. But even in celebration, no one forgot Mars. Memorials were built in every major city, tall black spires, etched with the names of the lost. Children laid flowers at their bases, and soldiers stood guard not out of duty, but out of respect. On the Moon, the surviving crews of the decoy fleet raised a new banner over their docks. It bore a single phrase. They will never get close, far beyond the reach of human eyes. The signal traveled, passing through nebula clouds, bouncing from asteroids, slipping into systems where no human had ever set foot. In one such place, on a cold world lit by a dying star, a council of alien warlords listened. Some laughed, thinking the humans were arrogant. Others stayed silent, remembering the old stories of Deathworlders, beings who thrived where others could not. In the hidden chambers of what remained of the Varnak leadership, the mood was not amusement, but fury. The surviving officers argued, demanding revenge. One slammed his claws against the table. We underestimated them once. We will not again. Another growled. Then we will need more than ships. We will need an alliance. Unaware of these distant conversations, Ross stood on a balcony. Above the icy expanse of Antarctica, the wind cut sharp against his face. But he didn't mind. Hall joined him. You know they'll come again, she said. Ross nodded. Yes. And when they do, we'll be ready. Beneath them, the eclipse. Array remained silent, its golden light gone, but in the depths of its rings, a faint pulse of energy still beat like a heart. It was not resting, only waiting, and somewhere, at the farthest edge of human scanners, a faint echo of the signal reached an unknown listening post. The receiver was not Varnak, not allied with them. A new voice, cold and calculating, spoke. Into the shadows, Earth, it said. We'll be watching. The warning had been sent. The galaxy had heard, and humanity had stepped into a larger, darker game than it had ever known.